Hello, everybody. Happy 4th of July. It's Dave Neal, stand-up comic and host of the Rush Hour podcast. Well, I'm not going to leave you high and dry. We have a big international audience. Maybe our British friends are out there and you don't want to see us celebrating ghosting you guys. Well, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, I've got a special episode for you. I'm going to share a question and answer that we've got. I've compiled all of your questions. I have all of them right here from the Instagram, DNeals. I do this maybe once a month, every couple months. I take inventory of your questions and I read them back to you. I'll tell you this, on this episode, I'm going to answer the question of how much money I make. I'm going to answer the question about my health, my family. So there's a few questions that will show up on here that I'm going to skip. I'm skipping them for two reasons. One, I'm skipping them because it's redundant, because I get asked a million times, how did you meet Tasha? And then the other question, and then some are just creepy. There's some flat out creepy questions. I'm not going to judge anybody for asking because I did say ask me anything. But if you see some questions on there that I don't answer, just know it's because you're a creep. And that's okay. It's 4th of July. Maybe you already had a couple extra 4th of July beverages. All right, so let's get into it. I'm going to rock and roll right now. We'll see how long this takes. We'll go from top to left to right, top to bottom. When and how did you realize you wanted to be a stand-up comedian? Well, I never thought I could become a stand-up comedian because I always saw like Chris Rock specials and Dane Cook, and you don't realize that there's a process to creativity that starts with writing your first joke, writing your first bit, writing your first 5 minutes, and so on and so forth. So when did I actually think I could become a stand-up comedian? It's when I moved to Los Angeles and I went to somebody's stand-up comedy class show and I got to see what new comics looked like on stage. And I said, I could do that. So my advice to anybody out there, if there's anything creative or likewise that you want to get into, find out, Google how to start, and go surround yourselves with people that are one step ahead of you. You don't want to surround yourself necessarily with someone 10 years ahead of you, because if you want to be an architect, you want to see who's taking Architect 101, as it were. I think it's still great to know the greats. With stand-up comedy, it's good to see experts out there perform, but at the same time, I also think it's good to see what people are doing. Like if you're a baby and you only saw people running the 100-meter dash in the Olympics, you'd be like, how do I walk? But if you're a baby and you see all these little toddlers walking around, you go, I can waddle like that. And I feel that way with creativity. So get out there, start it, and don't worry about the professionals. Just know over time, the more you work on something, whether it be art or writing or whatever, the more you're building the neuro pathways in your brain that connect your nervous system, that connect your soul to the hands and the feet that will walk you to your dreams. And I mean that. You can walk or run to your dreams if you just take those first steps. Why did you buy a Tesla after this guy bought the election? No special interests? ? Well, I bought my Tesla 2 years ago, way before it was political. Would I buy a Tesla now? Probably not. But at the same time, I haven't been one of those big anti-Tesla guys. I really love my Tesla. What I love about it is the sound system, and it feels like I'm in a mobile office. When it comes to driving to comedy shows and doing road gigs, I just wanted a nice car. My car before my new Tesla was a 2004 Toyota Matrix, which is like a Corolla, which was a great car. I loved it. But to sit in a car that's climate controlled and be able to hang out in a beautiful, by the way, it's also great for filming things. It's got the glass roof. So I knew it would be a good car just overall for content creation. It's my work vehicle. And I've never been apologetic for buying it. It is kind of funny that literally right after I bought it, it became such a politically divisive thing. But it's like, put your money where your mouth is. And if you want, go buy a different electric car, whatever. I don't know. But I don't, and some people are like, oh, you got to return it. No. I've got 3 years left of car payments. That's the car that I have. It's just funny because, green energy has always been very, a left-leaning ideology, but because Elon Musk, voted in Donald Trump, everyone hated Tesla, and I get it. No one's received more social welfare than Elon Musk. He's received a lot of government subsidies, but, the truth is, without Elon Musk and without Tesla, I don't know where the electric car industry would be, because all of these other car companies basically colluded to keep us from going electric. So I think it's a good thing to have the technology. Teslas are not built great. There's a lot of issues with them. Cybertrucks are disgusting, whatever. But yeah, that's where I'm at. What is the one thing you want your son to learn from you and your wife? Well, what a great question. I think I've said this over and over. The key to success in life is grit and perseverance. And if I can teach my son anything, it is just to work hard and fight for that which you want in life. And maybe trying to teach him about positive energy. And when something feels good, no, not eating a brownie, but if it feels good to cook for others, maybe you want to be a cook. Like, what do I care what you want to do? What fuels you? What makes you happy? That's your gift in life. So often, I think I notice that in life, people turn off their ears and don't listen to what their God-given gifts are, whether it be through fear. Usually it's fear. I got to get a job. I got to pay the bills. I got to do this. I got to do that. And it's like, well, what were you meant to do? And you might not have the answer as far as like, well, I meant to build homes or I meant to make movies. You might not have the answer, but look at what the vibe is. What makes you happy? What makes you feel good? Right now with podcasting, it serves the need and the desire to connect with other humans. I get that 10 times stronger, maybe 100 times stronger with stand-up. We'll get into more of that, but that's why I want to do more live comedy, because I just love connecting with others. I love making people feel good. And that doesn't always, play out on the show. Sometimes we're covering things that are really heavy, but in the end, I think if there's a through line to my show, it's how can we enjoy each other's company and how can we thrive? What is your favorite memory of your childhood being raised by a single mom? Such a tough question. Really good questions here. Favorite memory as a child? I can't possibly answer that. I did, it was tough growing up. I think it was hard it wasn't too often you'd see my mom smile, right? She was a busy woman working full time. And I think when I got to see her around some of her cousins, I would always see her light up because they knew how to make her laugh. And I would say a favorite memory was in the moments where we could get my mom off of work mode and we could all be, a cohesive family, which is tough because, she was doing the job of multiple people. I couldn't imagine. Now that we've got my wife and I don't even want to use the term stay at home because that's kind of got a negative connotation, but my wife's a full-time mom, and having her home and me home and seeing how hard it is to raise a child, and hard is, again, it's so tough to call it hard. We love it. It's so fulfilling, but it's a lot of energy, right? It's a lot of energy. That energy though, it's like going into your garden and you're planting and you're spending all this time trying to get your plants to grow. And that's what a baby is, right? You're trying to do all the right things so that he kind of doesn't hate us. We just want a healthy kid. Date night ideas, not the food types. Wow, that's a tough one. I'm so old school. It's been so long. All of my dates before dating Tasha were really just going to the bars and local dives and having a couple of drinks. So if it's not food related, I don't know if it's alcohol related. I hear the zoo is fun. A date is good when you can find other things to do and not focus on each other. So by that, I mean, if you go to the zoo, you can learn about each other's personality just by going into the environment of something else. You might get that same feeling if you just go shopping at an old marketplace, or, if you go do things that the relationship gets, put yourself into the experiment of dating where you're doing things that you would do otherwise with your partner on a normal day. And I know that sounds kind of lazy, but that might be that might be going to the local market or learning how to make a new food. Cooking is great, but you say no food. So everything I do is food related. If it's not food related, what can I tell you? Go play a board game together. How are you feeling? I hope you're well. All right. I got a lot of people asking this question, because last week was a rough week. I had my muscles were attacked by my immune system. I don't know how else to say it. I had extremely weak muscles. I had scary things going on. My things I don't even need to mention. It was tough to even go to the bathroom. It was critically not good. My energy was okay. I just physically did not have the gears I needed to do life. So I was a little tired, but it was more like I couldn't get my body to work. It was scary. I told myself I'd get more testing, but I've been traveling. And as of right now, my grip strength is probably back to like close to 100%. I was getting Charlie horses on every muscle in my body. Everyone gave me a diagnosis, but I think what it came down to was an infection I might have gotten that had something to do with how physically exhausted I was from the heat wave and traveling with my family. I'm not really sure. Will you be taking some time off? Your body is telling you to. I worry about you. Love you and the family. Well, the short answer is no, but I'm recording this on Thursday afternoon. You can watch this behind the scenes if you want to see how I prep for my podcast, patreon.com/Dave Neal. The short answer is no, I'm not taking time off, but what I am trying to do is be smarter with my time. So Friday, 4th of July, the day you're watching this, I'm out. I'm going to be traveling with family and hanging out, and I'm going to try to unplug and things like that. This weekend, Saturday night, I'm going to be doing a stand-up set, but I love doing that. That's not work. That's like, I've earned the right to do that. That's love, right? So will I be taking time off? No, but strategically, I am trying to find the extra moments to slow down. I record the podcast twice a day, which means at nighttime, when we were in New York, I normally record from like 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. to like 2 a.m. But what happened was, we didn't have our blackout curtains when we were traveling, so the baby was waking up with the sunrise and not sleeping in. Like normally he would sleep in a little bit later. So it was really cutting off my sleep. I was only getting 4 to 5 hours of sleep. And anyhow, I know I need to do better at getting my sleep. I know I need to do better at getting my rest. And with a 1-year-old and a full-time business, I'm still trying to figure that all out. Welcome to fatherhood. I kind of feel like a lot of people are in that position. How you like living in Nashville? Nashville is a season of our life that I like. I love our beautiful home. I'm still struggling with the suburban lifestyle as I really draw my energy from being in groups, visiting New York and Chelsea and really feeling that energy, walking from one stand-up show to the other. I feel like I'm more built for a city, but I also know if I can find a world where I can have a couple nights a week with my quote unquote mistress, the city, the energy that comes from being around that type of environment, then I can totally balance the two. If I lived here in a suburban area and didn't have any access to creativity and vibrancy and art and all of that, which, you might say, well, you can find that in the suburbs. It's like, well, sure, but the suburbs is not where you think of when you think of the, being on, the folks that are, writing scripts in their coffee shops and sleeping on their buddy's couch as they try to make it. That's the energy. That's like the river I want to be fishing in. All right, so let's move it on to page 2. Have you seen the H3 Ethan Klein copyright lawsuit, and would you consider covering it? I haven't, but I would. I find it very interesting. He's getting pretty litigious. I don't know much about it. I'd love to go on his show. He's got a huge podcast. I'm always down to go on people's podcasts to try to promote our show. But no, I haven't seen that. Question, how'd you meet your wife? Well, I met her on a movie set. We were both doing background work on, extra work, and we didn't really stay in touch. And then several years later, when I lived in California and she lived in Los Angeles, we started becoming friends. And it's a longer story, but I've told it a million times. And that was well over a decade ago. How is your sweet little boy? He's doing great. People are saying he's getting so big. Is he going to be getting his first haircut soon? I don't know. We don't have any plans to cut his hair, but we're also not trying to, grow it out for any reason. We just we take life every day at a time. And I tell you what, I like when he pulls his hair back, and it's so adorable. We are just kind of no real philosophy to it. Here's an interesting question. What do you love most about podcasting, and what do you like least about it? Okay, the things I like least about it are the easiest to answer. I don't like the amount of time I spend doing non-creative things. So when I get to the size where I can hire somebody to like fully control, like Candace Owens was, say what you want about her, but she's obviously a huge podcaster. And she was like, at 11 a.m., my team shows up and we do X, Y, and Z. And I'm like thinking, oh my gosh, to have a team that could say, guys, you got me from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. every day. Set me up. Give me a 3-minute heads up, hit the record button, let's go. Treat it like a live performance. I think I could do less work and give my audience a better version of me if I'm not doing all the behind the scenes. And not to promote the Patreon again, but if you want to see what I'm actually doing every morning, usually for 2 or 3 hours and then 2 or 3 hours at night, you can watch me do it on Patreon. I call it Work with Dave, patreon.com/Dave Neal. It's literally me showing you my screen as I put together all, in most of my work that I'm doing, the pre-production, most of it is Photoshop. The number one thing I learned that helped me thrive is Photoshop and Premiere, which is the video software I use. Basically, you need to learn how to tell your story so that you have a platform and a stage to actually speak on. And that's what learning Photoshop did. It helped push me to a bigger audience because new people were clicking on my content because it looked more credible and X, Y, and Z. Any advice for setting up a podcast? You've inspired me. Well, it goes to what I talked about earlier about what advice I would give my kid. Only do a podcast about something you're willing to talk about for a long time without making any money. Now, I'm not saying you should live with a scarcity mindset. You could possibly start making money immediately with your podcast. You have to be super professional about it, which I'm not going to go ahead and describe all of the ins and outs of the audio. You can just Google that stuff on YouTube. How to start a podcast. Search it on YouTube. You'll get all the right answers. But advice for setting up a show. You need to find something you can replicate. If you want to just interview people about their first job, that's great. Everyone's got a first job story. Can you replicate it? Can you find the guest? Can you find the time? Most podcasts die within 7 episodes. I did someone's podcast a few months ago and I knocked it out of the park and they never uploaded it. For me, when I do people's podcasts, I have to weigh, is this worth my time? Because I'm now at that size where if I do someone's podcast and only 100 people see it, it's like I could have been better served doing my podcast with you guys, where we get, anywhere from, 5,000 to 50,000 or so people, depending on the episode. So the advice for setting it up is you got to find something that excites you, something you're either really smart in, you have a lot of knowledge about, or something that excites you. So you might not be the smartest when it comes to how to throw a baseball, but if you're a Red Sox fan and you want to do a podcast about Red Sox, think of the upside. Sure, there'll be a lot of podcasts about the Red Sox, but if you get that thing so good, you can tax write off every game you go to. Maybe you'll get invited to games. I mean, you love the Red Sox. Why not? So if you're going to do it about something you love, you will open doors to have more of that. If you love hostels and you want to travel to all the best hostels in the world and interview people from them, and think about all the upside. Now, I remind people, brick walls aren't meant to keep you out. They're meant to show you how bad you want something. Randy Posh, right, from the last lecture. Google it. There are a lot of people that want to get into the world of podcasting, and you are not owed an audience. And a lot of people are very humbled when they start something new and they only have 17 people listening. So the number one way I think in today's world you can build your podcast is build your social media. Your podcast has to be video. It has to live on YouTube. Your podcast has to have a social media presence so new people can find it. And let's say you want to interview first-time moms. The best thing you can do is to give out information to other first-time moms. The best thing you can do is provide information to your audience. So find a way to have a podcast that A, you love talking about what it's going to be about, and B, you're able to offer information and entertainment to an audience and be willing to do it across platforms. It's a lot of work. But as we'll get to when people ask me the question, it's the most money I've ever made, which is not why I do it, but it's why I continue to do it at the level that I try to get to because it's a job. It's a job that I love to do. Let's go to our next page. I like how you talk about news because I know what's going on without feeling depressed. That is not a question, but I really appreciate it. Why did you choose to obsessively cover the Blake Lively trial and not Diddy? Well, I'll be honest. The Diddy stuff is so sad. We know he's a wife beater. We saw the video. We know he's a bad guy. I didn't feel like I could offer much by covering it. Whereas Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni was interesting because if what Justin Baldoni was alleging to be true was true, that he's innocent and this and that, it's a fascinating thing. Diddy, a lot of the allegations against him, he got off on. I don't know, whatever. I covered it a little bit. But, to say I obsessively covered the Blake Lively trial, you might not be wrong, but it also kind of feels a little like you're throwing shade at me. Listen, we got 50,000 new followers. We got a whole new community of people. And it's like I was a guy making muffins and then there was a cronut phase. And so we shifted and made some cronuts. Not everyone's going to love my cronuts. They'll go out of style. And then I'll try to sell you some of my muffins. Is Augie walking? Augie just started walking. He took a few steps like over a month ago, but we didn't push him on it, And last night we were actually upstairs in our little extra living room that's got all the rugs and, soft carpeting. And he just he's the type of guy, if you're not watching and you're not giving him too much attention, he'll go walk. And sure enough, he kind of just penguin, move from 5 or 10 feet. I mean, he's going to really start walking now. But again, it's like, what's the rush? Developmentally, he's doing great. So we haven't really forced it. Why don't you share both sides of political stories? You only report one-sided info. Now, of course, I get this a lot. Dave, you're biased. Dave, you're so obviously on one side. I'm a product of the world that I see around me. And by that, I mean, I come from a lower middle class single mom family. She remarried into a blue collar family. I come from a very blue collar background, just super middle class, not poor, not rich, but, with the ability to see into the rich. I come from a neighborhood, that has, you got those rich people and you got the poor people, and I'm kind of somewhere in between. And when you see the country and you see the divisions that are happening, people in red states hate blue states. The coastal elite blue states hate the red states. And you just see the media really has found a business model making money trying to get us all to hate each other. When, I talk about social programs like maybe, kids in inner cities that don't have much funding getting school lunches. You might have people that are Republican that say, oh, that's a handout. We're against handouts. Well, then the farmers that are in Republican-driven like red states, they get more handouts than everybody. They get subsidized by the government, and there's handouts for all of the, there's the idea of a handout is something I've just rejected for a long time. The idea that there's people that are, scamming the welfare system and they don't want to work. I believe everybody wants to work, and some people did a better job or got luckier and they made more money. And I don't think they're inherently better people. I'll relate it back to The Bachelor, right? The Bachelor, it used to be, you go on the show and you get 1 million followers and then your shit doesn't stink, right? You become this famous person who can make all this money. And it's like, are you really that better of a person? No, you kind of just got lucky and you kind of rode this big kind of influencer wave. I feel that way about a lot of people that gain a lot of wealth. Like right now, I've been making a lot more money in the last 5 years than I ever did. I went from, making 20 grand a year, 30, 40 grand a year. Some years, I went from that market of being really not doing well, to making $200,000-$300,000 a year. And I don't work any harder now. I just found a way to work so that my time goes further. And to answer your question about covering both political sides, there's plenty to criticize about the Democratic Party, right? They've done a lot of colluding to keep the wrong people in power. There's a lot wrong with it. There's a hell of a lot wrong with the Republican Party. I just think the Democratic Party is a quicker path to putting the right people in place, voting for the right people that'll get to the solutions that benefit the most. I mean, right now, the Republican Party is literally hijacked by the MAGA movement. These people, nobody likes Trump, right? Nobody likes him, but they feel like, take Ted Cruz, right? Trump makes fun of Ted Cruz's wife. What does Ted Cruz do? He's a little bitch, and now he's pro Trump. Same thing with Ron DeSantis and Marco Rubio. All of these people, they fall into line because it benefits them to be a part of that thing versus think for themselves. And I can't speak for Democrats. I can only speak for myself, but I see a world where if the right leader comes up, we can all rally around somebody that takes more money from the rich. The rich they've extracted so much money from the quote unquote minefield, the labor field, right? Through technology and AI and all these other efficiencies, they've extracted all of this money and it doesn't trickle back down to the normal person. So our parents could live in this world where they had the white picket fence and live in a house on one salary. We don't have that anymore, but we should. We're more efficient than ever. This idea that people are lazy now, I reject that. I just think people, if you don't see any light at the end of the tunnel, it's really hard to feel motivated. So do I only report on one side? What's the other side? Would you like me to report on the 80 billionaires and why they deserve the tax breaks? Well, Jeff Bezos, he's created this company that's gotten him so much extraordinary wealth. Shouldn't he, he's already paying so much in taxes. I don't understand what the other side is. I'm on the side for the people, and I think when you strip away my politics, people realize that. I think when people first find me, they get kind of triggered because they're like, oh, he's on the other side. But this idea that people on the left are all super woke or super this or super that, I think most are very reasonable. I think we should all have universal health care. I think we should all let moms and dads spend a little bit more time with their families. Early childhood, I think if you have a baby, you should be guaranteed a year off. We have the money for these things. I think our government is kind of like beholden to a lot of interest groups that pay for people to get elected, right? Like Elon Musk paid hundreds of millions of dollars to get Trump elected. He wanted something in return. Same thing with Miriam Adelson, right? She pays hundreds of millions of dollars to get Trump elected. They pay money on both sides of the aisle. And then when it comes time to want to take a vote on universal health care, the people that we put into office are already receiving money from these lobby groups that want to look out for their interest, not ours. So I think Bernie Sanders was the once-in-a-lifetime candidate that really actually did want to drain the swamp. Who's going to replace him? My belief, it's AOC. Some people think that's not true, but I think she's one of the few people in office that isn't bought and paid for. There's all these rumors that she's a millionaire. She's not. She doesn't take private dark money and all of this other stuff. But yeah, I can be critical of Nancy Pelosi. Why the hell is she so rich? I can be critical of all the political personalities that stay in office too long, don't know when to give up power. Joe Biden shouldn't have run for office the second time, right? He's run for multiple times, but he shouldn't have sought a second term. Like, we need to have these conversations where we're honest, but at the same time, know that Biden, seeking a second term is not the same of what they're doing right now. Project 2025, which Trump said, oh, I don't know anything about it. Project 2025 is a rule book that is really ripping through democracy. It's leading us to question the judicial process and, rendering Congress and Senate virtually useless. All of the power goes to the president. I don't think this is what people signed up for. Has your cute wife considered being an influencer? She could do baby mom stuff. She used to work more as an influencer. She was a full-time model and would get influencer gigs. But honestly, I think it was too stressful. The being an influencer until you're at like a full-blown level, it's a lot of work. You're dependent on a lot of people's input. And I think honestly, it's not worth it. I think podcasting is such a better racket than influencing because you're not dependent on this, like for instance, TikTok, right? I started making a few bucks last month. We've hired our TikTok person. She, pay her $500 a week. She works 25 hours a week making TikToks. And then I got kicked off TikTok. I'm still on TikTok, but I got kicked out of the creator program for essentially no reason. Essentially no reason. There's no rhyme or reason to it. So if someone was to be an influencer, it's like, you're really hoping that, all of your eggs are in one basket. So not exactly something I find too desirable. But with that said, growing your social media following has opened so many doors. Like, I can get on stand-up shows that I wasn't getting on before. Maybe I'm funnier now, done it longer, but maybe it's also I'm being vetted by people seeing my following size. So if you haven't already, double check, make sure you're following all the different platforms. D Neals on Instagram. The question was, did you always plan to do stand-up after college? I think we kind of answered that. The answer was no, I didn't know it was a possibility. Do you get recognized when out? Yeah, Natalie recognized me. Shout out to Natalie. Natalie recognized me on my JetBlue flight. She was so sweet. She came up to me and she was like, "Oh, Dave, your show means a lot to me. I watch you and blah, blah, blah." It's always so sweet when people come up to me because, look, I get it. I wanted to share with you this one photo. It was probably the coolest time I was ever recognized. I'm going to share it with you guys right now. I was actually with Peter Weber. If you follow The Bachelor, I was with Pilot Pete, and this girl came up to us and actually, look how sweet she was. She was the sweetest moment. She was so kind. She came up to my wife and I, this is 2 summers ago. We were like having a drink, after brunch or whatever. And she was just, I don't know who she is. She was just the nicest person. And it's a good example of when people do come up to us, how kind and sweet they are. Everybody always has a story to share. It's so humbling. Like, Tasha knows how important it is to me when I meet somebody to really connect with them, find out, what their name is, how long they've been listening and where they come from, and just like really appreciate it, because nothing's guaranteed in life. And I've seen other stand-up comedian people that I know who don't value their audience. They see them as a hassle, and it'll never be that way. My show is nothing without the collection of people that check it out. It's opened up doors. It's expanded my family. None of that would happen without you guys. And it's a non-negotiable. With that said, I'm not taking shit from people. That doesn't mean people can walk over me and whatever. And it's never been the case where I've never met an entitled person in my life that follows the show. They're all online, the real crazies. But the people that you meet, they're just so kind. And this happened to me several times in New York. It's easier to run into people in New York because you're walking everywhere. So like, of course you're going to run into people. But it happens, like I said, it happened on, row 22 in my JetBlue flight. And if anyone does see me out there, please come up and say hi. Means a lot. All right, let's keep it going. Did I get through all of those questions? Do I miss LA? Very much so. How are you feeling? Do you think it was stress related? I'm not stressed on a soul level, but physically, I think the summer heat can get to you sometimes. Are you growing Augie's hair to be like yours? We have a different style of hair. His hair is way finer. It's a much more fine, like angel hair, but maybe it'll grow into be like mine. I wouldn't stop him if he wants to be like dad. Love your family life because I love my family. Thank you. Oh yeah, thanks so much. Why'd you decide against covering Diddy trial? I've missed RH Pod, been obsessed with other. I don't know what RH Pod is. And I think I already answered not covering the Diddy trial. Look, it comes down to people tuned in for the Blake Lively stuff. The Diddy stuff was just so sad. And I don't do the daily live streams like I do podcasts. So I need more than just, what someone's saying on the witness stand. Can Augie join the podcast one day? He was on today's Rush Hour. He was on today's Patreon. So if you go back to the Patreon, you'll be able to see him. How are you feeling? Same questions. Love to hear an update about future upcoming podcast plans. Any changes or goals? When it comes down to it, go with the podcast. I don't want to tone it back at all from what you guys get. But like I said before, I want to do a better job of having a team or somebody who's an all-star package my thing up every day so that I can speak to my audience, give everybody the information they need, but not spend as much time and energy with the post-production, right? So if I release a 25-minute episode, theoretically, I could only work 25 minutes, right? Maybe a little bit longer if I wanted to do show prep, but that 25-minute episode usually takes me 3 hours to produce. So I'm trying to get rid of more of that time. So upcoming plans for the podcast would be to just continue to let it grow. I would love to do more interview style stuff. I know we'll get a few more questions on that. it just hasn't been feasible here in Nashville. Will you go back to reporting more on reality TV and The Bachelor? Yes, I will be covering I will continue to cover The Bachelor. Reality TV, I don't know. I don't, like there's great channels like Game of Roses and others that really cover the ins and outs of reality TV. I cover like entertainment and pop culture news because I think it's more up my alley with human dynamics, the breakups, having conversations like that, which I'll continue to do. But also, to be quite honest, in the world we live in, it became quite superficial just covering The Bachelor, 2-3 videos a day, when there was so much other stuff going on. So I do feel like there's a much bigger calling to continue to talk to bigger social issues. But with that said, there's always time for The Bachelor. Tasha got into bikini shape fast. Congrats to her. I'll let her know you said that. Tasha does not have any diets or specific things she does. I think she's just got those genes, you know what I mean? Like I don't have it. If I even look at a pizza, I get bloated. Tasha she doesn't have the food addiction issue I have. I have a food addiction issue. I will eat whatever's available to me if I'm if I'm kind of not sober. If I'm not sober, I don't mean that with alcohol, but if I'm like watching, if I'm being strict with my diet, I won't. If I'm saying I'm not eating carbs, then I won't do it. But when I start to negotiate with myself, I'm a fickle bitch. I'll eat last night. I ate over half of a Costco deep dish pizza. I can't begin to tell you how many servings. That must have been 6 servings, but it just went down because it gives me that momentary bliss, that a food addict feels. Tasha doesn't feel that. She can eat, until she's done. But I have to eat till the plate's finished. And I think that's probably partly like the upbringing of like clear your plate. And again, I don't ascribe to this now, but they would say, there's starving kids in X, Y, and Z. You need to clear your plate. It's like, whatever happened to just eating till we're full? I eat until my ankles are swollen. Being a semi-famous person, do you ever get worried a random fan will show up to your house? I don't, but Tasha does. We had someone show up to our apartment several years ago. They were well-meaning. They were delivering something, but it was way too close. And in most cases, no one's ever people will send stuff to us, but no one's ever showed up since then unannounced. That would be a big no-no. Me personally, I don't live with those types of fears, but that's the privilege of being a dude. Whereas Tasha, she wants to make sure that we're safe, especially considering the Laura Owens stuff where I've had to deal with, people that it's like, how far would someone go to punish me, Does Tasha ever get recognized in public too? Yeah, kind of. Well, I mean, this is a perfect example where the person who found us, right, was probably knew both of us. But, some people just follow my podcast and don't follow the parasocial stuff. So they don't recognize her. But others that know, of course, how important Tasha is to my life. Yeah, I think there's nothing better than when they recognize her. When Natalie came up to me on the flight, she didn't say anything to Tasha or the baby. But again, we literally had just gotten up out of our seats and we were exiting. So I was getting my bags and she goes, "Are you Dave Neal?" And I was like, "Am I Dave Neal?" I think a lot of times when Tasha's with me, people are actually being more respectful of me and not approaching. Which is nice, but you don't have to be that way. If we're out in public, by all means, come say hi. A lot of questions about Tasha. When you worked as an extra, who was your favorite actress or actor? Well, when I stood in for Matt Bomer, I got to see how kind he was. But then you get to see the opposite, people like Ed Norton that are just rude and whatever. In most cases, I'm trying to think of a good example of somebody. Tom Cruise was great. He controls the set. Tom Cruise controls the set, which you never see an actor do. He shows up. Everyone was getting ready for this bus scene. The bus was driving. It was like an action scene. They spent hours setting the scene up. He gets into the bus. He notices that there was an elderly couple that like hadn't gone to the bathroom, and they're like, "Do you have to pee?" They're like, "Yeah." He was like, "All right, everyone, take a break," and then they were done for the day, which you don't ever get because time is money, but. Everything you've ever heard about Tom Cruise is that he is really great to work with. He would be such a legend if he wasn't in Scientology. Can you report on Laura Owen's trial if you are a key witness? That's a great question. I still don't know. I'm going to show up to her trial as if I can report on it. And if I can't, maybe I'll still run my live stream and I'll let other people report on it. I'll find a way. What is my favorite movie, favorite song? Favorite song is tough. There's this Keith Urban song, Got No Money in My Pocket, I Got a Hole in My Jeans, On the Road with My Lady, Who Wouldn't Want to Be Me? There's that song, I levitated listening to that live when I was broke, when I had been fired from my job, when I had nothing. I never considered myself poor. I did consider myself broke. Country music does a great job of speaking to that being broke, but not feeling poor. And you can be poor, but not feel poor. And I think the message there is like when you're pursuing your dreams, when you're sharing your life with people that you love, and you're doing what you're supposed to do, the money's not always there right away. It can be something that has to be figured out. But do what you love. Do what you love. I'm so cliche. Do what you love. You'll never work in a day in your life. You're going to work hard, but it's going to feel great because you love it. And that song, I Got No Money in My Pocket, I Got a Hole in My Jeans, I'm on the road, my lady, who wouldn't want to be me? And I'm probably butchering the lyrics, but who wouldn't want to be you? Because people will tell you this, and it's hard for folks to believe when they're broke, but once you get money, it doesn't answer your problems. It makes life a little bit easier. You can buy your way into a few different situations, but money without having the support system, the love, the energy being pushed into the direction, creatively speaking, of a world that you want. Without all of that, it's not going to fill the void. How did you get such a hot wife? Was the next question. I don't know, man. I got Tasha. She took a chance on old Dave, I guess. We ever do a show in Dallas, Fort Worth? Absolutely. I got nothing on the books, but go to the rushhourwithdaveneal.com. That's where I am populating my email list. So when I do have shows, I will be emailing people. Hold on, let me double check and make sure it's called Rush Hour with Dave. Yeah, rushhourwithdave.com. So as soon as you click on rushhourwithdave.com, it's got all of my different, videos, my bio and things. But when you click on this, the pop-up will show up where you just type in your email address and it'll give you all of the information. What happened to Driving with Dave? Driving with Dave isn't dead. I just haven't done it in a while for several reasons. One, I've been so busy. Two, I'm running out of people to interview. It's really hard to coordinate an interview. If I were super successful and anybody I wanted to interview would do an interview, I would love that. But you'd be shocked how hard it is to convince someone to get in the car with me and talk, especially when it's someone that might be at a level that would be interesting to people. When I lived in LA, it was a lot easier because, everyone's in LA is doing something. But out here, it's just been tough. Yeah, it's been tough. Time for baby Neil number 2. Well, no announcements to be made today. We have debated it. Do we want to have another baby? The answer is probably, but also, there is something beautiful about putting our attention onto one. If you could adapt to any other country's healthcare system, what would you choose and why? It's a good question. And honestly, I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. So many countries have, complex different systems that they pay into. What I think is crazy is when you hear the stories of people that say, yeah, I traveled to, Germany and I had to go to the ER and it only cost me $7. It's like, that system exists in other places that doesn't exist here. So I can't even fathom a system where you just go in and get work done, whatever you need. like this week when I wasn't feeling good, I went to I already pay, gosh, I don't know, $1,300 a month for me, my wife and my baby, maybe more. And with that, I never take advantage of going to get my health taken care of and looked at. And I'm starting to change my perspective on that because I'm like, look, I need to be as healthy for as long as possible for my family's sake. But it's still like I'm 20 years into being trained to avoid the doctor at all costs. If we had universal health care, I think we would just go to the doctor when we're sick. And we wouldn't do it when we're just having a reactive moment. I mean, our country, obesity, heart issues, there's so many things that are relatively preventable to an extent, and we don't get them taken care of because we don't want to get the MRI for the lump. We don't want to, and it's senseless, but it's a poor mindset to have, but we know how much that stuff can cost. What has surprised you the most about living in the Nashville area? The road rage. There's a lot of people that have a lot of repressed issues that take it out on the road. And there's been like a decent amount of anger I've seen from people. And I think it's because people have their own space here. So when someone gets in their space, like I remember I was merging into traffic and I've had more people flick me off and yell at me. And it's like, okay, bro, go to therapy. Who do you consider friends in Bachelor Nation? Well, got a lot of people. There's a lot of great people and so many that are on this coming season. Susie Evans, she's just the sweetest. I heard yesterday someone had mentioned she was saying kind words about me, and she was the first one to do Driving with Dave. She's always been, when I met Susie, she was just like bigger than life. Like she really is a special person. She's got the ability to charm the room, but she doesn't do it in a way that is lecherous. There's a lot of people in Bachelor Nation that can turn on that charm, but they want something out of it. I've had conversations with her, and I don't even know her that well, but if there's ever someone in Bachelor Nation where if I was ever like, okay, Dave, you got to make one phone call and someone needs to help you out, I could see her being that. Same with like Justin Glaze. He was such a nice guy. Andrew Spencer, there's so many. And again, now that I'm mentioning people, there's going to be plenty that I don't get a chance to mention. There's a lot of cool people that make their way onto that show. And I would never want to talk trash collectively to all people in Bachelor Nation. I think there's a lot of people that make their way on their show that are rudderless and it goes to their head and all these other things. There's also a ton of good people. The casting does a really good job of finding some real all-stars. Caitlin Bristow. Listen, Caitlin's messy as hell. She'll tell you, she wants loyalty from her friends. She'll keep track if she doesn't feel like they're returning the favors. I'm the same way. I want my friends to live up to the level of friendship I expect I want to give, and I see that out of Caitlin, and I don't ever ask her for anything. I don't know if I'd call her a friend in that she's been super friendly to me, and I would say a friend, but again, she's the type where I know how busy I am and I'm sure she's just as busy. So I never want to ask anything from her. She lives on the other side of town. Any talk of getting a dog soon? Sending love about losing Boone. It's so hard. Yeah. The year anniversary is actually this week of us losing the dog. And no, we don't have any plans to get another dog anytime soon. It doesn't lessen how much we love dogs. I just think we'll do it at a time when Augie can properly really appreciate a new dog. Could you imagine Augie turning 4 or 5 or 6 and a dog shows up, for Christmas? My heart will melt when that day comes. We're a long way away from it. How proud are you that you were strong enough to fight for justice for Clayton, Greg, and Mike? It is the greatest gift I've ever received from the Bachelor community. The gift of learning my true potential when faced with adversity. I've always said, that motivational, like adversity is how you act when no one's watching. We had a lot of people watching, and we had a lot of people that expected me, that wanted me to live up to what they thought I could be. And I hope I did that. I think to me personally, I did that and more. But I didn't do it alone, and nothing we do is alone. I did it with the help of everyone who believed in me. I want to specifically shout out Bruce, obviously the whole Patreon community, but specifically Bruce, would tell me like, look, we're not going to We're not going to let you go homeless, which sounds so silly to say, but I was getting threatened with all these things, and it's like it's a real gut punch. And all of the people in the community, and by the way, there are a lot of them. I can't mention them all because if I start mentioning any more, I'm going to miss somebody. But everyone, they taught me what I was capable of, and they forced me to live up to that. So yeah, I am proud. I'm extremely proud of how that was all handled. Any personal updates about what's to come next? There is stuff in the works for sure. My guess is it'll be announced soon, and it'll be stuff that comes out in 2026. It takes a little time. But yeah, more on that later. How old is the little boy? 13 months, 14 months. How much do you make? Now, that's an interesting question because my channel took off and went from making $6,000 one year to $180,000 the next to $220 the year after. We had a couple of years where it dipped down a little bit, some higher, some lower. I pay myself a salary. So it's really hard to know to say exactly what I make. But this year has been strong. This year we've been well into the 20K, 25K per month range. 1 month, I can't remember which month, maybe March or April. 1 month we hit, almost hit 50,000, maybe 49 and a half, maybe 50, around 50,000 a month. So when that all adds up, what will this year be? 400,000? I don't know. But I'm going to keep pushing because I got a lot of catching up to do. And, to talk finances, it's like, yeah, we do a little bit of traveling, but most of my money goes back into the mortgage. I'm just trying to catch up. I'm trying to catch up on retirement, things that, I'm just turned 40 and I didn't start investing till a couple of years ago. I was too broke. I didn't pay off my student loans till a couple of years ago, and no longer broke, but it's a lot of work to keep that energy going. And my goal now is to get a 6-figure income out of my stand-up. And do more live stuff. That's my longer term goal from the podcast. The podcast is great. I want to make it so that I can perform live, and I think that's the next 10 years. I think that's the next 10 years of my life is getting live shows in, doing maybe like a West Coast tour in the spring, an East Coast tour in the fall. Christmas we spend incubating somewhere. Summers we travel, and then the stories that come from living life I get to share with my audience. That's kind of the goal, is living a life worth living, sharing it with others, finding the joys in that, and trying to be sort of a sample for what can be. If you work hard, and again, I'm still extremely lucky. There's been a lot of luck that's gone into it, but if you keep showing up every day and keep working hard, the luck will favor you. Like, you will get the tip ball. Tie goes to the runner. When do you and Tasha feel will be a good time to give Augie a sibling? 2 years makes them besties. I just love you guys for these questions. I know in today's world, you're not supposed to ask these questions. So be careful when you ask other people them, because you never know, people might be trying or whatever, but I don't mind people asking. And I don't have an answer for you. I'll tell you what, Augie makes it extremely difficult to get the time to think about the processes that create that extra kid. I'm a mom of a shaken baby survivor. Would you be interested in learning more? Absolutely. DM me more. Actually, absolutely. Favorite holiday? Mine is Halloween, followed by Thanksgiving. I really like 4th of July. For just the outdoor barbecues. I'm so excited to travel today as I record this on Thursday. I've got a 5-hour drive. We're going to try to time the drive so the baby can partially be napping. But favorite holidays really for me all come down to people spending time together. I love Christmas because I love that we take time to watch movies and dress up in silly costumes. And my big goal for my family is that holidays become as experiential as they are anything else. Like, I don't want the world where our son races to under the Christmas tree just to rip open the presents. I want the world where we all drink coffee and share stories and you guys understand what I'm saying. That's why I've always loved Thanksgiving, because I love the idea of gratitude. I love the idea of gratitude. And, I'm a big believer in the laws of attraction. I know it's hokey. I know that there's no real science to prove it, but I believe when you do things that you love, you give off an energy that is very strong, and other people would want a part of that. As Keith Urban said, I'm on the road with my lady. Who wouldn't want to be me? Who wouldn't want to be me? I get to live my dream. I get to raise my family under my own terms, something I didn't really get to do as a child growing up with a lower income family. I get to make choices now that are for the benefit of my family's livelihood, not just because of the bottom dollar. If we need to take an Uber XL, we take an Uber XL. I couldn't do this 5 years ago. And so to shout out the audience one more time, it is because of this quirky algorithm that decided I was now ready to be shared with a bigger audience. I'm not perfect. If you ask the comment section, I'm rambly. I'm a lot of things, but I hope I'm authentic. I hope I give people the version of me that is the one that makes me happy. And I hope that that version is one that resonates with others. Like what's crazy when doing 2 podcasts a day, that you're not gonna, you can't fool people this long, right? You are who you are. There are days, the Patreon will see, where I'm super anxious, super frustrated, mad, yelling at things because the software is not working, and I know I got to be finished because the baby's woken up, and I promised Tasha I'd be done in time so I can be a good dad. Like I'm just as much like everybody else in those senses, but what I have to remember and try to live by for the 4 agreements, just the idea is that everyone's trying their best and trying to be as good as you can be with your intentions and your communication and sharing love. I don't let fights derail my relationship. I don't let the limbic system and the hangriness and the anxiety and the fights that can come with the fears. And I try not to let those things be the trap I step on in life. And sometimes they do. Whenever we travel, there seems to be a fight in one way or another, because it's very tough with our communication styles to travel with the deadlines of catching the Uber and getting our sleep in, and what do we pack and this and that. And I try to remember that the journey is what we're here for. And I didn't choose my wife, and she didn't choose me because we're perfect humans. We accept each other for who we are, knowing we're trying our best. When you treat your family as if everybody's trying your best. I'll end on this. My sister and I had a bit of a rough trip. I was just home visiting family. I was weak. I was sick. And, siblings, we say shit to each other just to piss each other off, right? I'm 40. My sister's 41. We say shit sometimes just to get into each other's skin. I did it to my mom. I called her my aunt's name as a joke to piss her off, because my aunt was like late for stuff. And I called anyway. So you remember I resort to being that younger brother. And my sister and I, we had to have a conversation. We had to talk, or we would have swept it under the rug and not dealt with it. And in 6 months or 12 months, we would have been hit with the same problem, because you get the same problems in life till you address them. Think of it like a video game. You will continue to play the same video game, whether it be professionally, your love life, your family life. You will play the same video game until you address it, overcome your challenge, and then you get a new set of challenges, the next level. And my sister and I both came to the conclusion we wanted to talk. It was beautiful. I don't know if she feels the same way about it as I do, that we didn't have to see eye to eye on everything. But the fact that I'm sure when she put her head down on her pillow that night, she knows that she chose conversation over bitterness. She chose reaching out to me, her little brother. We both chose that. And it's never too late to choose that with your family, with your loved ones. It's never too late to set those boundaries, lead with love, and know that everyone's trying their best with the information they have. My sister and I, we couldn't have had more in common. We're Irish twins, raised by the same mom, same circumstances, same school system. We're completely different people. We're completely different people. And I have to remember that what gives her anxiety isn't what gives me anxiety. And my sister being the older one, I have to remember how brave she was to be the older sibling that walked us through tough situations I could just gleefully be okay with because I knew my older sister was protecting me. When you give your family those benefits of doubt, when you give your friends those benefits of doubt, everyone's got hard challenges in life. I think of my mom. It's so easy to think of all the flaws. We could point them out all day long. But the podcast, I'll wrap this all up in a bow. The podcast, The Rush Hour, it's about having somebody to sit next to, metaphorically, for your rush hour drive to work, for, you're going to go mow the lawn or run to Home Goods or whatever you're going to do. If you need me, I'm in here. If you need me, I'm in here. We'll share the news. We'll talk some trash, but I'm here for you. And likewise, I feel like you guys have been there for me. I thank you for that. It doesn't go unnoticed. From Natalie on the JetBlue flight to whoever's showing up at a bar saying hi at a comedy show means the world. Thank you so much. And a very profound way to end the Q&A. Have a good weekend, everybody. Don't blow off your fingers. Fireworks aren't worth it. And I'll see you bright and early Monday morning. All right. Thanks for being a part of my TED Talk. I'm Dave, and this is The Rush.